What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today is Tuesday, March 4th, and the crypto market has been going kind of crazy. And this is largely due to Trump, what he's saying, what he's doing, how the market's reacting to those things. Trump announces the US Strategic Crypto Reserve, and that sent the market flying. And of course, right when we get up there, Trump spooks the market with the tariff news. But then just now, like an hour ago, I saw this. The US Secretary of Commerce says that Trump may roll back tariffs on Canada and Mexico tomorrow. And everyone's heads are just spinning at this point. Nobody really knows what's going on, what to do. You can see the comment section of this post. For F's sake, make a decision and stick with it. Well, that didn't last long. People are upset, kind of pissed off. People don't really like what Trump is doing. He's causing all kinds of chaos and uncertainty and craziness. But it seems like the market is bouncing back now, possibly because of the news that Trump may roll back the tariffs. People see that as being potentially a bullish catalyst. For the past many hours, Bitcoin has been running up, and this would be a higher low from our February 28th low. That low was about 78,000. Today's low is 81,500. It's definitely been difficult to navigate this price action in the short term. People that went short late got squeezed. People that went long late got squeezed. But what has developed on the chart now is a potential higher low in this range. So that's, I guess, the good news. Another positive thing that I saw was that the S&P 500 dropped into the end of the day. This is the 15-minute chart. You can see the S&P opened here, traded up, and then dropped. And on these 15-minute candles, the past, well, that was going to 430. If we look at Bitcoin, it didn't really react to that much at all. Bitcoin's still just trying to go up. Now, zooming out, Bitcoin saw obviously a momentous drop, a drop that a lot of people didn't expect, going from 95 down to 78. And then today coming really close to that low, but so far we have bounced. And we have seen the price bounce now back up above this previous downward sloping trend line. And this is where the weekly has to close at a minimum, is above that trend line, 87,500 or so, right? It is Tuesday. There's a lot of days left in the week. There's a lot of things that can happen within a week. You guys remember this weekly right here when we came down and it was just a big red candle? I came on here to YouTube and I said, the way that the weekly looks, the way that it appears right now is not how it's going to appear most likely at the end of the week. It's Wednesday. We're halfway through the week. It could end up being a large wick, kind of just like what August looked like. Most people did not think that that was even possible, but it did. We closed all the way back up 2% away from the open, and that printed the largest weekly wick in Bitcoin history. In dollar terms, over $16,000 weekly demand wick. Demand wick, guys, that signaled demand. Now, of course, there has been further volatility, but if we got a second test down here with a higher low and we close this weekly higher, that's going to be a really, really good sign. Closing the weekly at least at 87,500 or so is where we're going to want to close this week. And if we close higher, even better. And that would just be another huge demand wick on the way up for Bitcoin on this weekly chart. You can see some of these lows, these major lows. It was a very similar situation. We came down, tested the parabolic trend line, which is still intact even with this dip, right? A lot of people think I'm changing the line or something. They always say,
you're changing the trend line. You can always just change the line. Who cares about the parabola?
That's what people say. But I can prove really quickly that I'm not adjusting the line. It's been the same for a really long time. You know, looking at some of my past videos here from a couple weeks ago, we never had the trend line touching the price. It was sitting below it with a lot of room to move, to swing, because that's what Bitcoin likes to do. And all that room that we had in between the price at the time and the parabolic trend line, well, obviously now that gap has been filled. Go to your curve line tool. Very simply, go to the bottom, drag it up to where we are. It fits like a glove. No adjustment needed. That's it. That's where the line is, right? It's along the August low and the current low. So that's it. There's no adjustments to be made. That dip, that low right there that we had just the other day on the weekly was really the last point. It was really the point where we kind of had to see a bounce. At the time, the weekly looked like that, just a big red candle to the trend line. And I was saying we're reaching the critical zone. Pretty much have to maintain this low. The bounce needs to occur right about now. And that was sitting just below 80,000. It was the bottom. So that was good, right? It at least gives us a shot to maintain the bullish exponential trend here. And that dip that we saw was a 2017 style dip. It was a humongous, the largest weekly wick in Bitcoin history in dollar terms. We started at 96. then we come down to 78, and then we close at 94. I mean, that's classic Bitcoin. That's like classic 2017 Bitcoin right there. But it was fun to see Bitcoin pull off that move because it just sort of reminded me of the old days watching Bitcoin trade at a low market cap. Now, looking at Bitcoin on the weekly, there's a couple other things that we should discuss, and one of them being the weekly MACD, which is still pointed down currently. The bears still have the momentum on the weekly MACD. Of course, the week is not over. It is Tuesday, many days left in this week. Most likely, the weekly will close with a histogram that is showing that the bears have the momentum. But I am expecting that we're going to see the histogram values begin to increase next week. And now moving on to the RSI, the weekly RSI, there's a very distinct support line that we keep bouncing off of for every major parabolic low point. Right here, as we were creating base 2, we touched that support, sort of formed that horizontal support back in 2023, August. And then we did it once again over here in July, right here as we were forming base 3. Got a couple touches off that zone. Same exact point as 2023. And now the RSI is sitting on 50. The weekly has not closed, so this is not fixed. If the weekly were to bounce, we would close the weekly RSI at a higher point. If Bitcoin can manage to get a nice weekly close, weekly RSI closes near that resistance line, and we get continuation next week, I mean, this could end up looking a lot different than people think. Oftentimes, the markets will put you in the worst position right before it reverses. Really, we just need to see higher lows, continuation, and a push from here. It's possible that in a month or so going into April, it is possible that we break the trend line. And if we do, this will be pretty obvious. And of course, we'll cover it here on this channel. Now, looking at some of the altcoin charts, the others chart, right? All the low cap coins. A lot of people have had interest. They've been asking me about it. All right, take a look. Here's the altcoins at the top, and then I'll just move Bitcoin down. Bitcoin from this point here, this low here, made a much lower low. Altcoins made higher lows. The low caps made higher lows at large, which is very, very interesting to me. It's almost like they've sold off so much that there's no more selling pressure to be had. It's not really surprising if you think about it. And the setup that I'm seeing is really just a copy of this zone here, something that one of our Patreon Discord members pointed out. In 2024, we had a downward sloping channel, and the extrapolation, the steepest part of the flagpole, if you just extrapolate that, place it on the breakout zone, it was a perfect target hit. And this previous flagpole, if you place it on the breakout zone, it would take us up to 730 billion roughly, which would be a new all-time high. And then possibly, if the cycle still kind of sucks, right? Like this cycle hasn't been great. I'm not expecting it to just become all of a sudden the best cycle ever. It may be a cycle where things are kind of suppressed. So that might be a target zone for altcoins. And then they could come back to retest the trend line, then maybe go up later. It might just be a very steady uptrend where there's just a lot of profit taking at every new high. So that is kind of how I'm seeing it right now, at least. If you pull up the global liquidity index, you can see that every major bull run for these altcoins, right? This one right here is the M2. Here's 2017. They really did not start running until global liquidity exploded or, went up tremendously. The next cycle, they really didn't start going up until global liquidity was trending up. And what we've seen is that until recently, global liquidity, we were testing the 2022 highs as support just recently. There has been no growth for the M2 at all, really. But it's starting to come up to this resistance point. You can see the M2 is slowly coming up now to a breakout. And that breakout in global liquidity may be exactly what the altcoins need to start doing something for real. But anyway, going back to Bitcoin here, things are still intact. We're just gonna have to see how it develops. Also, Kraken added this markets chart, which is very helpful for spotting sectors in the market that may be performing better than others. You go to past 3 months, you can see there's a couple sectors here which are outperforming the rest of the market, or at least not going down as much as the rest of the market. And you can hover over these to see which ones they are. In this case, it is payment and value sector, and then privacy coin sector, to maybe see what coins you could be getting into that have strength, or what coins you might want to stay away from. And this is now on Kraken Pro, the markets tab. If you're not signed up to Kraken Pro, be sure to do so right now by clicking that link below. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one.